Hey, what's up? It's Joe. Welcome to my 5 Minute Friday for August 2nd. So, just hang out in Berlin with my family right now. We went on a 2 week excursion through a few countries here. And yeah, I just got back to Berlin last night. I had a nasty case of food poisoning yesterday, so I was just completely out. But back in commission today. So, yeah, anyway, things in my mind. I always like to bring a couple books with me on trips. I was in the middle of finishing this book called Peopleware, Productive Projects and Teams. Actually read it 10 plus years ago, or something like that. But thought I'd, go through it, 'cause I think there's definitely some elements related to the book and some other things on my mind. But yeah, it's crazy. So the first edition of this book came out in 1987. And if you kind of look back to just what's changed, what hasn't changed, and this might be a topic that we discuss at the practical data modeling group this week or next, but what's been on my mind a lot is like what hasn't changed. We talk about what has changed, but what hasn't changed. And I think the things that haven't changed are actually more important than the things that have changed in tech. I think it's no secret. I've been ranting about this for a while, but I feel like it's no shortage of innovations in technology, no shortage of new improvements, new advances, and so forth. That's what technology is supposed to do, right? But it is interesting when I look back on books like this and talk to kind of old timers in the field. It always comes back to sort of the squishy stuff, right? So Peopleware is basically about just basically how to assemble and how to run productive software development teams that can deliver things of high quality. But as this book talks about too, there's a few passages I'll read. Like there's one thing here. So if you are charged with getting a task done, what proportion of your time ought to be dedicated to actually doing the task? Not 100%. There ought to be some provision for brainstorming, investigating new methods, figuring out how to avoid doing some of the subtasks, reading, training, and just goofing off, right? And often what I find, especially nowadays, is all about, quote, productivity. So how much can you eke out of developers, per unit of time or per dollar amount or something like that. So, and a friend of mine, Alan Holub, he gave a really good talk at Jay on the Beach in Spain this May, where he had this idea of slack time, really, and the most productive point is really when you have about 30% slack time built into your schedule, so you can adjust for things like errors and changes to plans and so forth, right? But I thought that was interesting because I think all too often we're all about hitting at 100% and gunning it, and this is definitely a great way to burn out. So as this book also talks about, it's every inclination to push the effort into 100% do mode. If an excuse is needed for the lack of think time, the excuse is always time pressure, as though there were ever work to be done without time pressure. So I don't think that's changed at all. If we kind of go further in this book here, there's a chapter called Vienna Waits for You. And let me see here. Sorry. Oh yeah, sorry, wrong chapter here. So there's a chapter called Quality if Time Permits. And this one talks, I think, is amazing, but the whole punchline is quality is worth pursuing, right? I think all too often we try and just crank things out at the expense of quality. And what this means is we produce a lot of crap more quickly. So this book quotes, quality far beyond that required by the end user is a means to higher productivity. And I do agree with this. If you go back to the essence of lean thinking, for example, right, it's about single piece workflow and really pushing out high quality products. Reduction of error is more achievable when you're pushing out things one at a time and really focusing on quality and not just throughput. And I see this as definitely a central issue in tech and data across various teams I talk to and practitioners I work with, where there's just not enough time in the day to get everything done. The backlog keeps piling up, and I think there's an argument to be made the backlog should at some point just be burned down to the ground, and if it's a priority, it'll come back. But So it's interesting. 1987, that was a long time ago. So, it's a full-grown adult with several kids and a second mortgage at some point. So, that's the world we're in. So it's interesting just seeing, in this age where we're thinking AI is going to take over everything. A lot of these themes still resonate, right? Like we're just, even the topics of AI, the whole discussions about how much more can we crank out, how much more productivity can we achieve with AI. Um, I think it's the wrong discussion to have, actually. I think it's more about, if you're looking at through the context of quality, how can we create better outputs than we do now? Not necessarily can we crank out more code. I think that's the wrong metric. That's the classic lines of code fallacy that a lot of people fall into. But if you can use AI to increase the quality and improve the experiences of end users, then I think that's worth going for. But just to crank out code more quickly, it's a fool's errand. That's stupid. So anyway, great book. I would highly recommend reading it. I think it just definitely goes back to the theme of the more things change, the more they stay the same, and I just don't see technology or AI really changing these inherently human problems, and just the fact that in a lot of ways I think organizations, most organizations aren't set up to be technological organizations. They just aren't, right? They're wired for other things. They weren't tech first, and so wiring in tech functions is a very hard order. Not to say it can't be done; it's done successfully, but it takes a lot to make it happen, and there's a lot of obstacles in the way. Right? That's why sometimes you see companies spinning off quote innovation labs and sort of having the tech functions kind of outside the regular business for that reason. But I'm hopeful. I think that there's nowhere to go but up. So. We'll see where it goes. But anyway, I'm looking forward to this discussion. I think this will be a group discussion we'll have over at practicaldatamodeling.substack.com. Kind of wrapping up what's going on next week. I have, let me see, a low-key happy hour if you're in Salt Lake City, Utah area, August 8th, downtown. Just go to meetup.com and search for the low-key happy hour. You can find it there. And then, what is it? Saturday night. Matt Housley and I are doing another happy hour down in Mountain View, California. We'll be down there recording for our course. And so if you're around Mountain View, come check it out. I'll post an invite somewhere, maybe in the chat and Substack or something like that. But thanks to Lynn Bender for organizing that. It's awesome. Got a pretty big roster of people. Then going to be pretty much just back in Salt Lake, wrapping up the course. The book's sadly going to be a bit delayed, but I think it's going to be better for a couple of reasons. One, the course is taking a lot more time than I thought. And then two, there's I'm going to start including more kind of multimedia elements into the Substack posts I do when I release chapters. So that'll be happening starting next week, but you'll see video, more kind of diagrams and stuff. So I want the book to be, I think, as informative as possible. So book will get done this year. But I just want this to be, I think, not just a book just to crank it out, but I think a very high quality educational experience for those who are reading it. So you can crank out words, but I think it's also important to illustrate the concepts in a way that will help you learn the best. So anyway, more on that soon, and I hope you have a great weekend, and take care. Bye.